The true test of any camera designed for the great outdoors lies not on a pristine studio table, but out in the unpredictable, harsh elements of nature where split-second moments make the difference between a once-in-a-lifetime masterpiece and a blurry, missed opportunity. Stepping into the field with the Sony RX10 V immediately shifts your perspective on what is physically possible during a demanding day of hiking and shooting. Historically, wildlife photographers have been forced to carry a heavy backpack loaded with multiple camera bodies, gargantuan telephoto lenses, sturdy tripods, and rain covers. The sheer physical toll of transporting 20 to 30 pounds of glass can quickly drain your energy, leaving you sluggish when a rare bird suddenly lands on a nearby branch. With the Sony RX10 V, that entire paradigm is shattered because you are carrying a single, beautifully balanced, weather-sealed chassis that weighs just over 2 pounds, yet gives you instant access to a focal range spanning from a wide-angle 24mm all the way to an extreme 600mm equivalent. When you first power on the Sony RX10 V in a dense, misty forest, the immediate responsiveness of the system becomes apparent. The combination of the stacked Exmor RS sensor and the Bion's XR processor means the camera boots up almost instantly, ready to shoot in a fraction of a second. As you scan the tree canopy for movement, the value of the built-in ZEISS Vario Sonar T** lens reveals itself. At the 24mm wide end, you can capture the grand, sweeping environment of the forest, establishing the scene with incredible clarity and deep contrast. But the moment you spot a small warbler hopping through the branches hundreds of feet away, a smooth twist of a zoom ring, or a pull on the physical zoom lever brings the subject incredibly close. The zoom mechanism is whisper-quiet and highly precise, allowing you to frame a tiny, fast-moving bird with ease. At 600mm, the compression of the background is stunning, completely isolating your subject against a creamy, painterly backdrop of out-of-focus foliage. However, a long focal length is completely useless if the autofocus system cannot keep up with the erratic movements of wild animals. And this is where the Sony RX10 V truly establishes itself as a generational leap in technology. By integrating a dedicated AI processing unit directly into the autofocus pipeline, the camera does not merely search for contrast or basic shapes. It actively understands what it is looking at. When you point the camera at a bird hidden deep within dense branches, the real-time recognition AF system instantly identifies the bird's eye, head, or body. Even when the bird turns its head away, hops behind leaves, or flies through a cluttered foreground, the AI-driven tracking remains locked on like glue. The system is incredibly customizable, allowing you to prioritize either the animal's eye or body, and you can adjust the tracking sensitivity to prevent the focus from jumping to passing branches or debris. The physical shooting experience is further elevated by the complete absence of viewfinder blackout during continuous shooting. When tracking a bird in flight, traditional camera viewfinders will flicker or go dark between frames, making it extremely difficult to keep a fast, erratic subject perfectly centered. The Sony RX10 V bypasses this limitation entirely, providing a continuous, uninterrupted 60 frames per second live view feed to the high-resolution Quad VGA OLED electronic viewfinder, while shooting continuous raw bursts at up to 30 frames per second. This means you can track a hawk diving at high speeds with perfect visual feedback, ensuring that every single frame in your burst is perfectly composed and pin-sharp. The camera's buffer is massive, effortlessly clearing dozens of high-speed RAW files to a fast UHS-2 SD card without locking up the system or interrupting your workflow. Shooting at 600mm handheld is historically a recipe for blurry images due to micro jitters in the photographer's hands, but the redesigned Optical SteadyShot in the Sony RX10 V acts as an invisible, highly effective stabilizer. The high-precision gyro sensors work in tandem with the lens groups to deliver up to 5.5 stops of stabilization, allowing you to drop your shutter speed surprisingly low in fading evening light while still achieving tack-sharp results. Even when standing in a strong wind, framing a distant subject at 600mm feels remarkably steady, resembling the smooth look of shooting from heavy tripod. This level of stabilization changes how you move through the wild, allowing you to shoot spontaneously from the shoulder rather than spending precious minutes setting up a tripod support system. When you analyze the files on a color-accurate monitor, the image quality from the 1-inch stacked sensor defies the typical expectations of this sensor size. The optical quality of the ZEISS glass is exceptional, rendering fine feathers, delicate fur, and complex textures with stunning micro-contrast and sharpness from corner to corner. Chromatic aberration, which often plagues ultra-telephoto zoom lenses in high-contrast situations, is virtually non-existent thanks to the heavy use of extra-low dispersion glass elements. The colors are rich, natural, and highly accurate, requiring very little post-processing to look lifelike. Even in challenging low-light conditions under a thick forest canopy, the camera manages noise beautifully, delivering highly usable files at higher ISO settings that retain impressive dynamic range and detail in both the shadows and highlights.